Welcome back. Today we're going to work on prints again, but more of the advanced features of prints, such as including a sectional view as well as including a detail view to give a little bit more information on our print. Now we're going to do that with this bracket. I just called it a bracket clamp. This was the inspiration. Notice I put more holes on it and probably made it a little wider than it needed to be, but this is the drawing that we're going to work off of and try to recreate the print. Now this is not such a complicated part that these expositional views would be necessary, but the point is to teach you how to do these. Okay, so we're going to start out with a part to draw. Okay. And then we're going to start out with making a rectangle. I like to make the background white to make it a little cleaner. Okay, so we're going to start out with this bottom rectangle, and that bottom rectangle is 100 by 50. So we will start out with that sketch, select the top plane, and then select sketch. And we're going to start out with a center rectangle. And I'm hovering over the center until I see this yellow intersection relationship, and then drag out my rectangle. Presumably all the measurements are in millimeters, so it's good I'm looking in millimeters. And again, that was going to be 100 by 50. Now we need to refer to our print again to see what our third dimension is. So we got the 100, we got the 50. Now we're going to look at extruding it to 10. So we'll go over to our extrude boss base and extrude it to 10. That's typically the default when you open up the new part. Left it. Okay. Now for this part, it looks like the corners have been rounded. So we're going to work on that rounding, and the radius of that fillet is 10. So go back to our part, and we're going to fillet it at 10. So the 10's already in here. And then we're going to select these corners. I don't want to propagate around the part, I just want these corners, so I'm going to unselect this tangent propagation, and then select these corners. And just that corner, I have a few ways to get that. I can either rotate the part around so I can see that corner, I can hover over it, and it should just highlight, or if that doesn't work, we can hit select other, and then we have each of the pieces that are sort of hidden from direct view, and I can select that edge. Any of those three methods will work. Okay, so now that I have that filleted, we can now work on the next part. So the next part is this part that sticks up into the air that would actually hold the presumably pipe or hose or whatever we're trying to hold in place. So that is 30 by 40, and so I have a couple of different options to do this. I can draw on this bottom sketch, extrude up, and then round it off, or I could sketch on the plane that's perpendicular and sketch this shape that's already rounded off. Either way works just fine. So I'm going to, since I already have this plane to sketch on, I am going to sketch on that plane. And that is a rectangle. So again, I'm going to start at the origin and pull out my rectangle. And that is going to be 40 in this direction and 30 in this direction. Lovely. You notice the rectangle did stay centered. If it moves when you are added those dimensions, then that relationship wasn't in there. You need to add it in there. Okay, lovely. Now I need to figure out how tall it needs to be. Looks like it is a total of 50 tall. So we will extrude it to 50. Change this to a 5. And extrude that out with a check mark. Okay. Now that we have that extruded, all right, now I want to round it off. And you could cut it, or you could put a fillet in. Either one works. Presumably, we don't really need the measurement for that because if this was 40 wide, then the radius of the diameter would need to be 40 or the radius would be 20. So that is on the drawing, but we don't really need that measurement because we should be able to figure it out from the relationship that it is the entire width of the part. All right, so items to fill it. Again, I do not want that to propagate. So with the unhit the tangent, and then we'll select those two edges to fill it with the check bar. And it looks like we have that nice rounded shape. So based on the original image, it looked like this part was probably casted because we have all these rounded edges on it instead of machine. So we're going to put those rounded edges on it. And you notice in my original drawing, I forgot to put the fillet in it, but we will go ahead and add that fillet. And the drawing says that those fillets are opposite. I thought I put that in. So we're going to fillet it too, just so it looks like a slight curve on there. So fillet. And we're just going to add a fillet of 2. And here I want to leave on the tangent propagation because I want to be able to select this top curve and have it go all the way around. I want to be able to select this edge, have it go all the way around. This edge, have it go all the way around. And then this base, and have that go all the way around instead of having to select each line individually. So beautiful. That looks like it could be a part that came out. The bottom is not filleted because if this is going to fit directly onto a part, we want that to be nice and smooth, so we would not have been folded. That would be machined. Okay, then we have several options on what to do next. We could put in these holes in the corners, we could put this hole in the top, or we could put this big hole in the side, or we could put this cut in. At this point, it doesn't matter what we do next. I'm going to put this big hole inside of the actual part that we're looking for. So that means I want to sketch on this side, and we want to put a circle in. That hole looks like it's centered, so I'll make it centered. And then we need to get the dimensions off of our print. So it looks like the center of the hole is 15 up off the base and has a diameter of 20. So we will dimension that. The diameter is 20. And there's a couple of ways to get the hole in the right vertical location. We could put a center liner across and dimension the distance there, but it should work just fine. Select our center of our hole, hold down the control key with this line. And this my dimension one. Center of the hole, hold down control key with that. And looks like it gets pretty close. We want to dimension the inner at 15. Okay. So now our hole is defined, and that means I can go ahead and cut it. And we want to cut it through. I don't want to use a blind hole because the intention is not that the hole is a certain depth, the intention is that the hole is all the way through. So we will select through all, and we get our hole. Next I want to create the cutout for this gap in our clamp. And we notice that it's too wide. Presumably it's symmetrical, so we're going to do 1 on each side. Go 1 millimeter in each direction. So to make that, that is presumably in the middle. And since I drew my base rectangle on the plane, you can see if you hover over a plane, so the right plane is in fact bisecting our part. So we are going to select that, and then hit the sketch button, and then we're going to sketch a rectangle on it. I want to make sure that my rectangle is centered so it doesn't move around on this image. It doesn't really matter otherwise where I put it, I just want it to be bigger. And now we always like to dimension things. So I'm going to make sure that that is at least 50 wide. make sure that it is in fact bigger than our part. And you notice that that relation did not stay there. So I need to make sure we have that relation in there, that this wants to stay centered. So I select that, and then select this and the vertical, and that gets that in line and adds that relationship so that rectangle stays where I want it. And then we want to dimension the other dimensions. And again, this doesn't matter, it just needs to be big enough. So 40 is a nice round number. And as we look at it, close that, look at our part and make sure that that rectangle doesn't in fact go into our cut down here. So you don't want it too short and be short of that cut. So it cuts all the way through the part, basically. And then I am going to extrude cut that. And I'm going to do a blind one. Since it was a total of 2 millimeters wide, we're going to do 1 millimeter in one direction and hit direction 2 down here to do 1 millimeter in the other direction. Okay. Looks lovely. So I can see that that cut does look correct. So hit my check mark to accept that. So we have that cut in there. Okay. Next part is I want to come up and put this hole to hold my bolt in there. So we can see that that from our detail is a circle, and you can look at various views that we have a circular cutout and then a hex on both sides for the end of the bolt. As well as from this view, we can see from that the lines that we have a circle all the way through, and then a hex on either side. Okay, so that means another sketch. We're going to open it up on this right side. And we're going to put a circle in there. And again, there's many ways to dimension it. I'm going to try to center it. So I'm going to wait till I get this vertical line in here. And then we're going to dimension that, as the line says, at 7.5. And we need to look at how high that is. So that hole looks like the center of it is 40 off that base, and it's 7.5 in diameter. Oh, so smart dimensioning, again, center of the hole, hold down your control key. So now this line should be 40. Awesome. And again, we wanted to cut that. And now we want to do through on, because we do want to go through everything. Okay. I'm going to rotate a little bit so we can see the hole. So in fact, go through everything. Now I'm going to put those hexagons in. So hexagons are on that sketch. We're going to open up a sketch on that plane again and go to our hexagon tool. Looks like it's already six-sided. And I want to put the relationship in that it should be centered on that hole. And it looks like from the drawing that the top, the flat part on the top and bottom are up and down, just like we have it. And it's 10-1. So I'm going to undo that so you can see me put the relationship in again. So notice when I put it in that we have it centered on the circle. And there's certain places that the hexagon likes to lock into, either with my pencil down or to the side. And so to the side means that that's horizontal and we lock in non-orientation. So I'm going to use my smart dimension tool again. So I'm going to hit the top, hold my control key, and then come hit the bottom and bring that dimension over, and that's 10. And if your hexagon moves while you're dimensioning, that means it wasn't correctly related. We don't have it fully defined. So we want to add those definitions to it. Okay, now we need to figure out how deep to cut that hole. So the hole looks like it goes in just a bit, and the dimensions are not on here, but it looks like it's about a third of the way through. and that dimension is actually 5. So we are going to cut that 5. So screen cut. I'm going to cut that in there to 5. So that's going to be a blind cut, 5 millimeters deep. Okay, so that is a nice little location for a little nut to sit. And we want the same hexagon on the other side. You can see that it's symmetrical. The easiest way to make something symmetrical is to use the mirror tool. So in fact what I'm going to do is have that entity selected, then come up to my linear pattern, pull that down for a mirror, and it's already in there as features to mirror. If it wasn't, we could pull down our design tree here, select it here, and we need to select the plane to mirror it around. So I'm going to select this right plane, and if we rotate the part, we should be able to see that it looks like it's placing that other hexagon in the right spot. Okay, so almost done. Now I just need to put the holes in the bottom. So we got a hexagon in both, and now we're going to sketch on the base, and again we're going to draw in circles, and I'm going to try to draw them in fairly random, use one in fairly randomly, so that we can dimension where exactly that circle is. Okay, that circle has a diameter 7.5, is 15 from the center line this way, and 40 from the center line that way. That's in fact what we're going to do. And again, we should be able to dimension without using any center lines, but center lines are also helpful. So hit the center of the circle, hit Smart Dimension, hit the center of the circle, hold down the Control key, hit the origin, and you should be able to dimension that right at 50. And then again for open up Smart Dimension, the center of my circle, and the origin again, put the same, I'm going to go this way with it. This will be 40. And I'm going to use the linear pattern tool in order to create the other 3 holes. So I'm going to do that after I cut it. It can be done before or after. It doesn't really matter, other than it's, the users would see the linear pattern tool only if you do it on the feature. Okay, again through all. And we have that hole. So now I can use linear pattern to pattern that, and I want to pattern that using front plane and the right plane to get 4 holes. Now they're all way too close together. So we have to look at our drawing for the spacing. And so this direction we're 30 apart, and this direction is 40. This will be a total of 80 apart in that direction. So I have to see which ones they do. So this is going to be 30. Let's see which direction with the holes, but move these holes this way. And that means this one I want to make 80. Okay. And that is in fact our part. So we can rotate the view. It looks pretty done. God. Rotate view. Looks beautiful. We can double check our print to make sure that it has all the features. It looks pretty well done. Okay, now we're going to want to make the print. The easiest way to do that is we go up here to our main menu and start our print from here. Make a drawing from this particular part. Oh yeah, and save. I thought you should save. So I'm going to call this bracket. And Um, we're going to have lots of extra drawings, so it might fit on the A side, but we're going to use the B side for this, just to give us a little bit more room. Okay, and then we're starting inserting our parts. So that could be from over here to insert individual views. I don't really like to do it that way. I'd much rather come up here to model view. Here's my bracket clamp. Make this a little wider. If you don't have it open, then you'd hit the browse button to open it, but since it's already open as a part, it shows up automatically. So I'm going to go here and hit my next button, and now I can select which views I want. So it looks like for my drawing, I had the front view, top, isometric, and right view. For this particular drawing, this can't add section views right away, so we're going to have to do that separately. Alright, so now I have my view, and I'm going to hit the Control A button, select everything that I have, and do my annotation and model items. And this will give us the base set of dimensions to put in here. Now you're going to want to go in here and edit it. And if you select a dimension, you can, if you're just using really counting numbers, you can select that we are not going to display double orders of magnitude. So you can go in and clean this up by yourself or add the dimensions as you see fit. But we're going to focus on making those extra views. The first one we're going to make is this sectional view that we're going to look at in the middle of the part. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to go up to section view here. And you notice that I have this pink line. It will be my cutting plane. And I want to cut right on this line. And I get a check mark over here that I can put in. I could also make an arc. I could offset it or notch it, depending on what I want to do, but I don't want to do those right now. I just want to have the basic section. So I hit the check mark, and it creates a basic section. It looks like it didn't get it quite right because this is not an internal part. So I should be able to move this section a little bit to be able to see that. Okay. It looks like it's still giving me a cutout here. This really should be a solid part. Move some of these elements. But the idea is now you can see that we are cutting through the part, and then that hole really does go all the way through. We also should add the hidden lines to these parts. To do that, you select your view, and then go up to this menu and hit the drawing style, and go down and hit hidden lines visible for all the sections where we want the hidden lines to be visible. Okay. Looks like my section disappeared, so I can redraw it by just deleting it. I don't want to redraw that section. So again, sectional view, I get this tool, and I can go to any drawing and insert my sectional view. So if I want to select this just in the center, I did it right that time. One notice at the top is not got hash marks because it's not cutting through a part, whereas the bottom part does have hash marks because we're in fact cutting through the part. And our hole is just a circle at this point because that is all that's in there. And we can make hidden lines on this one, so that you should be able to see the hexagon and the hole through it. Hidden lines do generally show up on sectional views. Okay, so get all that. Then the next thing I want to do is make a detailed view of this hexagon. To do that, I need to start out with a sketch. Sketching on drawing is encouraged. It helps you with communication. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can make sure I can get there. So again, I went to the sketch tool and then just selected circle because I want to make a detailed view of the circle. So I'm going to try to be anywhere outside that hexagon, but not including that fillet that's along the edges. Okay, cool. Then what I do is with that selected, I'm going to go up to the top ribbon and select detail view and accept that arrow. And then I put the detail view in there, so of course everything else. So then I can take if I select the words, I can move them closer. And that C corresponds to this C down here. So these two refer to each other by the letter C. It would have been B if I hadn't had to redraw this sectional view. Okay, lovely. And it's always a good idea to save. So I'll just save this as a print. So we have one more view to add. Okay. And we're going to add that kind of 3D view. We might need to move everything over a little bit to have room for that on the right. So we just highlight over the drawing and move it all over. And then we're going to add one more sectional view. It's not really easy in SolidWorks. I could make another section through the part over here, but I'm going to do it over here to get a different sectional view. So we're going to section again, right through the middle. Hit check, and here's where we could do an offset. So we can have an offset in our line. We come over here to go through this one. Okay, lovely. So this gives me another sectional view. And if I wanted to rotate that so it's three-dimensional, then I go up here and we have a 3D button. So 3D view drawing. So as long as it's selected, I can make it 3D. So here is I can rotate it so that we can see it basically as an isometric view. I hit the check mark, and again I can move this around some extent. I can break the relationship with the other drawings. So I can do that right now. Okay, and once we clean up all the dimensions, we are basically done with this drawing. So we're going to hit the save button again. That's the end of this lesson.